going on here? This is FFan Crazy. I'm here in the Splitgate training range, and I'm making a video here to kind of raise awareness for a mechanic that I think is an unintentional annoyance in the game, and one that I don't think many people realize specifically happens, but maybe have run into this in their own games a few times and gotten killed by it, and you know, just kind of didn't really think much more about it. So what am I talking about? So there's a mechanic that most FPS games nowadays will have, ever since GoldenEye, I think I've seen it, which is that if you shoot all the ammo in your gun and it's empty, it will reload automatically. You don't have to manually reload it when it has no ammo in it, because the game realizes that what else you're going to do with a gun with no ammo in it. I think the only game I've ever played that does not do this is Escape from Tarkov, which definitely has a different feel, and it's more going for a realistic approach where you have to sort of manually do everything in the game. So that's all well and all good. You know, this game is just like every other FPS game. If you shoot all your ammo out, you will reload automatically. So far, so good. There's a few scenarios where you might interrupt a reload. One of them that's very common in arena FPS games where you have multiple weapons is you shoot all your bullets out of your gun, you switch weapons, and you switch back to the original gun. You reload automatically as soon as you pull it out. So again, the game is behaving exactly like every other FPS game. So far, so good. There's a second scenario where you might interrupt a reload. Let's say you shoot all your bullets out here, and then I come pick up the sniper. Well, that pistol on the ground has no ammo in it, but if I pick it back up, the empty gun gets reloaded automatically, and that's really especially helpful like if you kill somebody and they had a rocket launcher, and they just shot both the rockets, but maybe you didn't know how many rockets they'd shot. Well, you know, if you shoot both your rockets and the gun's on the ground and I come and I pick it up, well, at least I know immediately, okay, I gotta reload these rockets because the reload animation triggers automatically. So again, these are all really good. I don't even know if you call them quality of life or whatever, but these are, you know, good features that help players out. They reduce the amount of things players have to remember, and I think they're, you know, very standard practice in most FPS games. So why am I making this video? Well, Splitgate has, as you might imagine, a third way to interrupted reload. And as you might have already guessed, it's portaling. And now, if you notice, I shot a portal, and I haven't finished my reload. And now, that's to be expected, because the portal uses that animation, you would expect it to cut the reload off. The problem is that the game doesn't reload for you after the animation is finished, and the problem that you run into is if you don't, you know, in the heat of the moment, if you don't notice this no ammo, which admittedly is trying its best to get your attention, but I can tell you for a fact that I've definitely overlooked it, and you don't see that you have 0 ammo in the top right because you're maybe in the middle of trying to win a firefight with somebody. Well, you may come around a corner thinking you have all your ammo and then try to shoot somebody and you run out of ammo. And it's really, really frustrating, and it's something I don't know why it doesn't work the way it does, you know, the way you would expect it to, where after the portal animation finishes, the gun checks to see that you have no ammo, and it does the reload animation automatically for you, just like in every other scenario in the game. Now, there's a few scenarios where this will come up. So number one is I'm in a firefight with somebody, and then I have to portal away, and I'll come around the corner, and I try to shoot them, and then it's out of ammo. And you may think, well, that was pretty obvious that you knew that you didn't finish the reload. Well, why didn't you know that? Well, you know, let's say you're being disciplined and you're not reloading your carbine after every kill, just in case another person comes up. Well, you might lose track of how many bullets you have, right? And let's say I shoot my last bullet and then I immediately portal. Well, nothing there indicated to me that I needed to reload, because if I'm not counting every single bullet in my head, I wouldn't have realized that I was about to be out necessarily, and if I portal away quickly enough, the reload animation doesn't start to let me know, hey, you're out of ammo. So if that scenario comes up, which I definitely have it come up a few times, and it most commonly happens with rockets, by the way, especially if you pick them up off someone's body, where you don't necessarily realize that you have to reload, then you may be in a scenario where you portal away and you think you're safe, and maybe you think you have a couple more bullets left. Maybe a person's coming around the corner and they're going to be weak, so you want to save your 1 or 2 last shots to kill the guy, and you're not going to reload in case they turn the corner just as you reload. And all of a sudden think you're being disciplined, but it turns out you didn't have any ammo in your gun. You try to shoot them and you end up having to reload and die. That comes up. And then the other scenario is you are shooting somebody, and then you're like, okay, wait for the last second for the reload to finish, portal away. okay, I think I waited long enough, so now in my head, I waited for the reload to finish, and then I portaled, and then as soon as I do that, I think I have enough ammo, ammo in my gun, but it turns out I actually cut off the animation a tiny bit early. And the reason that this is so brutal is because the game, and this is intentional, and I don't think it's a bad thing, but if you notice, look how quickly I reload this pistol. If I didn't have 0 ammo, look how quick that reload was. Now, if I shoot all the ammo out, that reload is almost twice as long. There's numbers out there for exactly how long that is. So if you're not used to the exact timing difference between a 0 ammo reload versus any amount other than 0, because they are different for most guns, I'm not sure about every gun off the top of my head, you might not have that internal sort of metronome that tells you exactly how long it is before your reload finishes, so you might preemptively portal away, not realizing you didn't quite finish the reload. So long story short, I think this is a mechanic that could be changed. I don't know how difficult it is to code that change. I'm very ignorant when it comes to that kind of thing, and maybe one of those things that's very tricky to fix, air quotes. I don't think that the devs would have intentionally designed it this way, but maybe they did, in which case I'd love to hear, their thoughts on why they decided to do that. And it may be one of those things where it's just a quirk of how the script that tells the gun to reload automatically works, where the script says, if the gun ran out of ammo, reload, or if you switch to an empty gun, reload, and there's no additional script that says if the reload was interrupted by a portal, after the portal animation finishes, automatically reload. So there may be something in the logic that doesn't tell it to do that, and it was just an oversight. And the devs, I'm sure that the devs have seen this or at least considered it, but it may be one of those things where they didn't feel like it was a very big deal, because maybe they had played this game a lot longer because they've been developing it, and it's ingrained in their head that they have to manually reload, and so because they're used to it, they didn't really consider it a problem. But it's something that I'm sure if everyone has really thought about, played this game for more than a few hours, you've probably had this happen to you and you got frustrated by it, but you didn't maybe quite put your finger on exactly how it happened. Because I know personally, I knew that occasionally I'd try to shoot my gun and it would have no ammo in it, and I wouldn't know what caused it to appear like it was ready to fire but not actually be reloaded. I didn't quite put my finger on how that scenario happened until I watched a replay of myself and caught the scenario where it happened and realized it was triggered off of shooting portals and interrupting it that way, but not any other circumstance that the gun was empty. Every other circumstance, whether I just shot the last bullet or I just switched weapons or I just picked up the weapon that was empty, in all those scenarios the gun will reload automatically, but not when you portal. So long story short, if the devs ever see this, I'd love for them to consider changing this mechanic. I think it's something that would be very, very, very beneficial. It would reduce really frustrating scenarios where you felt like you died in a cheap way that wasn't your fault. And I think it would just be a great improvement to the game. So I'd love if the devs considered that. I know, being out of beta and everything, that they may not have time to look at every suggestion. So if people want to share this around, I'd love it if the devs took this into consideration. Thanks for watching the video.